IHRDI is concerned, it is not for profit organization of like-minded friends from various walks of life who have joined together for the purpose of spreading information and increasing the competency of today's youth and other people. And this is a milestone as of today. We cross our first milestone of moving into double-digit numbers, wherein this is our 10th in the series webinar, which we are now presenting every Sunday on the same timing. And friends, I start off on a certain gloomy note in the sense that this is not a very great time, especially in terms of employment generation and in terms of economy, wherein the economy, which was growing earlier at roughly more than 8.3%, is down to roughly today less than even 5%. And it is said that in the last 45 years, it is the worst in terms of employment generation. Though after 2000, year 2000, we were moving towards a jobless growth. But due to various factors like the shrinking economy and the reforms that we undertook, so-called reforms, the unemployment rate has increased thereafter. And now the skirmishes that we are having with neighbors like Pakistan and China, and the pandemic that has struck the entire 195 countries altogether. So things are not so as rosy, which they earlier were. So therefore, friends, uh, uh, during this time period, what would be the impact on our employability and how we could improve? As, such, as you know that we have around 40 crore population, which is a working population as such, and every year we add around 80 million hands to our working population as such. Over all these years, people used to say that we are in the process of demographic dividend or a population dividend. But now the things that have been done in the sense that even in the 2019, while addressing the people from the ramparts of Red Fort, Prime Minister also talked about population explosion and said that it is high time now we should have some measures to reduce this so that this demographic dividend does not become demographic nightmare. So there's a big paradox. On the one hand, in our country, we have more than 40 crore people who are eligible for working, and on the other hand, in various surveys, the corporate sector it always keeps on complaining that we do not get the right kind of talent. So, what are the reasons behind this? Poor training could be one of the reasons, or there could be many other reasons also as such. Or all from the last, the NDA government and prior to that, the UPA government took up these various steps to bring about employability and scalability and to improve the competence of the various persons who wish to join the employment market. Thereafter, the setup of organization been formed, which includes the NSDC or National Skill Development Corporation and a specific Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. And couple this with the Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana, also brings a good kind of an organization infrastructure to improve upon the skill set and to provide a platform for the people who join the employability as such. And friends, if you go by the overall target was to train around 300 million youth by the year 2023. And but you'll be surprised to know that the actual trained youth as of today is around 55 million only. And even those people do not get the jobs as such. So this is one side of the story, one scenario which is therein. The If we move on to the higher circles, the professional courses like engineering courses and the management courses, as you know, that as per various reports by multilateral agencies like KPMG, Deloitte, McKinsey in the Indian market, it has been surveyed and said that more than 70% of Indian engineers they are unemployable, and more than 50% of Indian management graduates are unemployable, meaning thereby that their skills are not matching to what the industry is demanding as such. And therefore, what others what others in the sense that what institutions which are AICT approved and others which are technical institutions, what generally now they are teaching or training to the students that they are actually not becoming professionals. So there is some gap wherein overall things are therein. Further, apart from this, the Prime Minister called upon, Startup India, Stand Up India, and taking up the calls. The various institutions throughout the country, they took this to themselves to bring about employability skills. And you are very much aware that our universities and the colleges, we are not even in the top 200, bearing one or two IITs and IISC. We do not break common even in the top 200 colleges of this country. See, the reason would be, we are not devoting ourselves to the kind of research. We do not have that kind of a patents and the products that should be, useful for the market as such. So, keeping this point of view, the Prime Minister called upon, rather nudged the IITs and all to bring about employability skills. So therefore, the Stand Up India started, and the various technical incubators were set up in various institutions as such. So we will be moving, for from the skilling India to the plight or performance of engineering colleges, wherein engineering and management graduates are therein, to the case study of IIT Ropar, wherein they have certain programs under the technical incubation. So, friends, to deliberate on all these issues, I think, sorry, I had to start upon such note, but this is a fact, and then the diagnosis of the problem has to be done so that we come out with a solution. So we have, with all these paradoxes wherein, we have the population dividend on one hand and population nightmare on the other hand. This is one big problem, one big issue, which I will request the panelists to go on. The second issue that we'll be deliberating and discussing is that water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. This is what the corporate sector says, wherein you have 40, 50 crore hands in this country, but they do not get good skilled people. Again, what are the reasons? Do we require reskilling and upskilling of technical and professional students and the colleges? Again, this is a big and a moot question, which I think over a period while we discuss and deliberate, issues will come to the state. And then further issues on, what IIT Ropar is doing and what could be learned from IIT Ropar and what could be learned, and so that it becomes a kind of a, template which others can follow on this. So, friends, to deliberate on this, we are very fortunate to have with us today three very, very eminent speakers. I think by far we have, this is our 10th of the series, and very senior people who have joined us today. Let me, and it is my privilege to introduce these three speakers to you. Mr. Raj Nehru, who's Vice Chancellor, Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana, Gurugram, joins us for this seminar today. Along with him, Mr. Major General Dr. G.S. Lamba, Vishish Seva Medal, the Principal and Director of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur Engineering College, Fatehgarh Sahab, joins us today. And along with him, Mr. J K Sharma, who is the Chief Project Officer, Technology Business Incubator, IIT Ropar. These are the three panelists who join us today. And just to give a brief about all the three at the outset, and then we should ask each one of to share their own information and knowledge about the issue. Firstly, Mr. Raj Nehru, he happens to be the youngest founding Vice Chancellor of Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana, which is situated at Gurugram. He is also a director, Haryana Skill Development Mission. And Sir is the one who has founded this university and pioneered dual education industry integrated model, which is like earn while you learn. And I think he'll give you more onto this aspect. He's a HR professional. He's a person who brings about from the human capital and has more than 2 decades in various different organizations, starting from Indian Army to moving on to the corporate world, into the realm of pharma, IT enabled sectors, automobile, etc. And lastly, he was director HR to electrical company, which is a multinational corporation. Sir is a recipient of a number of awards, including Innovative Leader Award, the Brick of Change Award, the Neelkant Samman 2019, Hall of Fame Skills Leadership Award 2020, and number of other awards. He also happens to be on the board of various reputed organizations into the technical and employability domain, like AICTE, UGCE, MSCE, IILM, and various other universities as such. Sir is also a member of steering committee of Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana. And as regards his personal interests are concerned, he's a philanthropist who has started up a foundation by the name of Utsav Foundation, which is working well for the education and skilling of the not so privileged sections of our society who are there in the slums and all. Friends, from my side and from your side, I would welcome Mr. Raj Nehru. And thank you, sir, to be giving your consent to be a member of this group as such, and to be sharing your valuable thoughts on this. Welcome, sir. The
Thank you.
second panelist of the day is Major General B.S. Lamba. Major General Dr. G.S. Lamba is a Vashish Seva Medal, and he comes from the army background of, he's a second generation army defense personnel. His father happened to serve in the British Indian Army, and thereafter in the Indian INA of Subhash Chandra Bose. And he has served with distinction 39 years in Indian Army and at various positions, and with lot of distinction till the year 2014. He has been conferred or honored with Vishish Seva Medal in January 2014, and the various important assignments that is handled, including Kargil War and Sri Lanka operations, which was IPKF during his time period and stint as such. Sir is has a flair of academics, and I was very surprised to see how he has gone on adding to his academic achievements, wherein he is a BTech gold medalist from JNU. He is an MTech from IIT Madras. He is an MSc from Defense Studies. In Defense Studies, he has done 2 MPhils, and he is a PhD or a doctorate, and then he has various diplomas to his credit. And during his second innings, since the year 2014, he joined as the principal and director of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur Engineering College, which is a very prominent engineering college in the state of Punjab, sponsored by SGPC. And to the various initiatives that he took in bringing the BBSP or Baba Banda Singh Engineering College to great heights, included having NAC certifications and adding up agriculture engineering subject to the things. And he's also running an armed forces preparatory institute inside the campus, apart from nudging and skilling the students in the domain of engineering and management. So friends, please welcome Major General Dr. G.S. Lamba. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to be a part of this panel. The third eminent speaker of today is Mr. J K Sharma, or Mr. Jabir Kumar Sharma. He is presently working as Chief Project Officer of IIT Ropar Technology Business Incubator, and he is responsible for dealing with the students, the IITs, for setting up while they work, while they study in IIT, setting up various startups and encouraging them as such to come out with various products and patents. He is a graduate in the field of garments technology from Government Institute of Garments Technology, Amritsar, and sir is a very versatile personality. He started with Industrial Training Institute from Haryana, and later on he cleared the DGET exam, wherein he was in Uttar Pradesh, Allahabad, since 2003. Once he retired from therein, he joined private education sector, and thereafter he's been into various institutions, good reputed institutions like Riyat and Bahara group of colleges, IIT Bhaddal. He also has been the director of Baddi Technical Training Institution, and he is a member of number of institutions like TIE, slide, etc. And presently, he is the Chief Project Officer of IIT Ropar Technology Business Incubator. So, friends, please welcome Mr. J K Sharma with a big round of applause, virtually, of course. Welcome, sir, to this webinar, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be a part of this panel. So, friends, I will
Thank you.
not be Sir, I'll not be taking much long. I know you are very eager to hear from the horse's mouth. So, firstly, I'll request Mr. Raj Nehru to come up and share his vision about the first of this kind university that Haryana has come forward to set up, the Skill University. And incidentally, for your knowledge, the world over there are just 6 skill universities, and in India we have the one that has been set up by Haryana, Vishwakarma Skill University, and the proud Vice Chancellor of Mr. Raj Nehru, who happens to be the youngest also. So welcome, sir. And now over to you, sir. Sir.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I was trying to share a presentation. Let me try again. I'm putting a presentation for the benefit of everyone. Is this presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
It is visible.
It's visible, sir.
Okay, good. So first of all, thank you very much, sir, for Dr. Sanjeev for giving this opportunity of speaking today on this event and inviting people from diverse fields. I'm glad that we have an opportunity of hearing General Lamba as well as Professor Sharma, who come from extremely great experience side, and I'm sure it will enrich the participants today on occasion of this, talking about skilling in India, potential gaps, and way forward. So, in India, we have been seeing that today, when we look at the overall scenario in the economy and we try to find out what is the role and contribution of India in the overall economic affairs of the world, and then when we try to find out uh, the root cause, we come up with various solutions for our education, our skilling, our industry. But and then people say our total contribution in the global arena today is not more than 5 to 7% of the GDP. And sometimes it makes me to think, is this what India has been? And then when I look back and quickly look at some research that has been conducted by various people, and one of the research which was published later in the form of a book, Contours of Economy, by Angus Madison, the information that is revealed in his research, when he was a British historian and economist, the research that he has conducted for the global economies, including India, is very interesting to note, and people must read that. That between first century AD until 16th, 17th century, in almost 1700 years, he says India's GDP contribution to the world GDP was more than 30%, 30 to 40%. And this is very interesting and surprising that today we are 5 to 7% of the global GDP, but the past reports talk about almost 30 to 35%. But when I go beyond first century AD, you will be surprised to see that it was even more than that. And the economies were largely driven by the metal economies and from Indonesia to Israel, the sea routes and the river routes that were followed for the trading, India was far superior in those days. But something has happened in between, and something has actually impacted. So I will not get into that. I think there are a lot many researchers they're talking about it. But today, because we are talking about the skilling, and it makes me to come back to the point, but it makes me to also ask and leave participants with one thought, that what we see India today is not what India was many decades back. India was more and better than what we are today. We had entire economy driven by the education and skilling, and the nation had so many universities where people not only from India but from the world came in to come and study. And we had Sharda, Takshila, Nalanda, Somapura, Udantapuri, Vallabi, one after another, Kantanur Shala. And these institutions curated scholars. These institutions created scholars who curated innovations, and those innovations led India to go and do trade all over the world and attract the world to come and buy. And that's why we were called Soni Ki Chidiya, because we traded for gold. So that's it. But today, when we look at the overall scenario, we have education, we have skilling. And my personal view is that when I look at the skill India today, I have classified it into six P's. These are the six P's which I call as the six challenges that today the skilling is facing. While when we look at the overall skilled resources in India and compare it with the other countries, we are at 5 to 6% of the total skilled trained population. We have huge targets, ambitions for training. More than 500 million is the target we have, and we have higher targets for apprenticeship as well. But when we look at the skilling side, you see these six P's are actually creating so many roadblocks and hurdles for us. The one biggest challenge I find today is the perception around challenge. And I want to also make a statement that now, because of the announcement of the new education policy, most of these P's will get addressed. So the challenge continues, but with the advent of new education policy, many of the things would be addressed, which I will talk in the coming slide. But the perception has been one of the biggest reasons. The perception of children, perception of families, perception of industry, perception of educational institutions. And this perception was creating a lot of disparity between the people who attained some skill qualification or a vocational qualification versus other people who were from the regular education or technical education. So this disparity was also in the form of respect for the skill education. So it is also seen through research and various reports that the kind of respect we have had in the economy for the skilled people was very low. It was considered to be the last option, or it's considered to be the last option for the children whom we think they have failed in all fields and they are not worth in other fields. So okay, at the end, let's give them a skill education. So the respect and credibility and the self-esteem of the people who go through this program is not very high, and so society has not done much of the justice to this. Even the parents do not want to send children for skill education. Their perception is that skill education is just an add-on; it's not important. So that's one P. The another challenge in the skill education is the parity. So parity in terms of if today you are in the general education, you move from class 1 to class 8 and 9 and 10 and 11, and then move to diploma or arts or commerce, or then move to engineering. So the parity, the clarity is there that you where you are going to move in the education. But when it comes to the skill education, there is no parity of that education with the other education. So today, if you have done a skill based qualification, and if you have a diploma in the hand or a degree in the hand, both of them may not have the same value in the market. So if you go and apply for a job, the appreciation for a skill based qualification is nowhere. So you don't see any advertisements coming anywhere today where the vocational education or the skill based education is mentioned as one of the criteria. So from a parity between the general education and the skill education, you don't have that today existing. In the progression also, when a student moves from one level of class to another level of class in the general education or technical education, the skill education is fraught with the wall that if you do a QP qualification pack today, which is termed as the qualification in skill world, you don't know what is the next level that you want to attain. So if you have done a course in plumbing, you don't know what next you would be doing from a progression point of view. While as in the general education, you know, if you do a higher secondary, you can go to a graduation. From graduation, you can go to a post graduation or to a PhD. So the progression is lagging. The issue of practice is there. Today, most of the skill education in India, which I personally have seen, they demand more practice. They demand more workshop related tasks. They demand a good infrastructure. They demand a good opportunity of working with the industry. They demand the curriculum to be redesigned. They demand the faculties to have a different teaching pedagogy. But unfortunately, today, most of the skill based programs are again treated the same way. In many of the cases, I have seen it just because they have to earn the subsidy of the government, so they open the shops and run the programs without even realizing that the skill based programs had an intent of creating more practice into it. The another area I find is the precision level, because today in most of the skill based programs you require a technological intervention. I'll give an example. I remember in some of the factories that we used to visit, the traditional method of doing the breakdown maintenance or a preventive maintenance in a machine was that, when suddenly a machine would go into a breakdown, the maintenance guy would come and it will take him hours to really find out what the problem with the machine was that was the cause of the breakdown. But today, most of the machines require or they are operating with the sensor-based technologies. So every moving part is connected with a sensor, and sensors are interconnected with each other. And interconnection of sensors is resulted into a lot of data, and that data is requiring to be analyzed so that you don't have to spend too much of time to handle the breakdown. In fact, most of the preventive maintenances are done through the sensor based technology. But unfortunately, today, if you go and look at the kind of teaching we have for the skill based program, even at the mechanical level or the operator level, we do not have courses designed to that level of precision that has incorporated technology. Look at the plumbings we have. Most of the advanced plumbing has moved to the sensor based plumbing. But today, even in your ITIs or in your skill institutions, the plumbing still goes with the same old tradition of teaching and training. And the last is about the policy and promotion. So we never promoted. Policy was a big challenge for so many decades. But now that the new education policy is out and it has promised many, many things into it, so I see that hope of change. But the policy was one of the biggest reasons, and the way we promoted the skill education. So these are some 6 P's that I consolidated. I'm not getting into the details of these slides, but I'll show you something very interesting. When we look at the skills, we look them at 4 levels. And when I talked about the skill education, I am not so as a vice chancellor of a university, I always tell people the perception you hold for skilling is that the skilling means a plumber or an electrician or a barber or a mechanic, which is not true. The skilling today means skilling at different levels, and you need a doctor also to be skilled, you need an engineer also to be skilled, and you also need a technician to be skilled, you also need a street hawker to be skilled. So we have classified these skilling into the four levels, and these four levels depend upon the kind of the jobs that today people are doing. So if you see this chart, the level one is more related to the fundamental basic skills, where the routine activities, it's a menial work that the people do, versus the level four, where most of the focus is on making decisions, most of the focus is on applying certain theoretical concepts from a creative side of it, and it can be the professions like engineer or an architect or a author or a writer, or depending upon, and then the other two levels that we are talking about. But let me show you some very interesting data. If you look at the mean annual earnings of the eligible working population by age, you'll be surprised that if you look at the level 1 versus level 4, you see the by age and by earning today, these level 1 versus level 4, there's a huge gap, almost 6 to 7 times annual earnings that a level 1 versus a level 4 you will have. And this is really heartening to see that we have not created, with the parity I was talking about and the progression I was talking about, that we have never created a sense of parity. You go to other developed countries, whether they are master craftsmen or a technical person or a general person, there is a huge parity in their earnings. But unfortunately, in India, we have a challenge. Not only in this, if you look at the another chart below this chart, you will be surprised to see that even the entry levels are far, far earlier, which means that when people enter with lesser education and go for skilling, they continue to stay with lesser education. And as they continue to stay with lesser education, the rate of increase for their earnings do not also grow at the same rate with the rate at which the level 3 and level 4 salaries grow. So this is also creating a huge disparity in the system, and it also impacts the purchase power of the one level of skilled person versus the another level of skilled person. And the research has found that as the education gets combined with the skilling, and the quality of skilling improves, the rate of return on earnings also increase. So when you look at these two charts, it gives you an idea about what I was talking about, the perception, parity, and practice and precision. This is where the problem today is. That's why the perception about the skill based courses and skill based programs is poor, because people don't see that these are the jobs that are going to help our youngsters in a better way. And eventually the investments that happen from the government side, from the policy makers, are actually not meeting the purpose on the ground, because on the ground the perception with which everyone comes in, even the students who come for the skill based training, they do not come with that self esteem, confidence, and aspiration. They only come because someone is offering those courses, and in that process the quality gets impacted, the outcome, the purpose that was supposed to be earned gets impacted. So now I think with the government coming in with the new education policy, I think there is going to be a big shift in this entire modeling, because we have seen that the skilling was getting largely focused only after a student failed after class 10th or did not pursue his education. So ultimately parents or society would push him, chalo jaake koi skilling kar lo. But now with the new education policy breaking the 10 plus 2 into 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, this is going to be a transformative support to the skill based education, because the kind of curriculum that the government has proposed in the new education policy at 5 a plus 3 is going to be a big boon, because all our research indicates that the 5+3 age, the first 8 years of the child are most important. And the Asher report also talks about it, that the first 8 years are critical they are the formative stages of the child. They develop the talent, they create that ability and understanding and appreciation for things. So they set the right foundation in the child's head. And at the same time, the government has also talked about integrating the vocational education and skill education into the curriculum, which means right from the 8 years of age, the student will now be aligned with the local artisans, local art and craft, local vocations. So giving the child a flavor and appreciation for the vocational abilities and skill based activities, which means the appreciation for skill will come right from the childhood. So it is not suddenly getting pushed on a child after a child failed in 10th or 12th and now there was all doors closed. That the skill will start right from the early part of the life. And then post class 8, the child will be exposed to the local activities like basic plumbing, basic electrician, so that the child knows all these activities on his own, not from the profession point but from the self learning point. And this I see is going to be very revolutionary. And then when you are moving from class 10th onwards, the entire curriculum is getting changed to a multidisciplinary curriculum. So that is a big shift, because now the shifting into a multidisciplinary curriculum is giving an opportunity to children not to be only bracketed into arts or science or commerce or as other forms of education. The child will now have an opportunity of choosing the things that he or she has liking for or preference for or ability to work, because the first 5+3+3 would have given enough opportunity to the child to expose and earn that understanding about that subject or that skill or that craft, which I see is going to transform in the coming days. And then bringing into the credit based modeling, the credit bank that the government is going to create, which will support the new introduction of flexi entry and exit. Now this flexi entry and exit is fantastic, and with the flexi entry and exit, a child at any stage post 12th will have an opportunity of exiting after the first year, successfully doing it, and not that year getting wasted and going and doing work and coming back. So it's like taking a sabbatical for some time and working and coming back and seeping in new experiences and then studying further. Now this flexi entry and exit is going to strengthen. And the last thing what the regulator government will be doing is integrating the vocations into the higher education model, which is beautiful, which we didn't see till date. Which means now every course, for example, if you are doing a course in the BA side or BSc side or any other side or a combination of BA, BSc, BCom subjects, there is mandatory now for every level to be mapped to a specific nearest job role or a profession or a work, which means that if a person enters into a flexible entry exit exits at any level, the person will not only be getting a qualification, the person will also be getting ready for that level job, profession or work, which means it will be making him ready for the job or job ready after each level. So which is significant shift in our education policy. So this is terribly great. I see the way they are reimagining the vocational education and bringing in the multi-stakeholder and multi-channel engagements and the seamless interoperability between the academic and vocational streams. I think this is going to transform. And the scheme policy has already targeted that 50% of wet coverage. Today we are at 5% by 2025. So I think this is going to transform the vocational education. I know my time is limited, so I'm stopping myself here, and I do not want to be unfair to the other speakers. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening of the issue. This is an issue which has widespread tentacles, and it's very difficult to sum it up in such a short span of time. But this capsule that you've given has all the ingredients which needs to be therein. Just to sum up, Mr. Nehru has talked about the 6 P's of the skilling part. Then he's also discussed, in Indian setup, why we do not give the kind of social status and the kind of money that skilling actually requires, and it is the last resort with all the workforce that if they do not do anything, then skilling comes up. Then he has also talked about the new education policy and the shift, the paradigm shift that it intends to bring about in terms of integrating the skill education with the curriculum based education and the flexible entry and exit points wherein the credit based system is therein and nothing goes waste. If somebody works for 1 year, then also is given credit, and if he goes on to work for 4 years, completes his education, he is given for the credit. And thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening session. Now I request Dr. G.S. Lamba to take it forward from here and to talk about the status of engineering and management education in India, and with particular reference to the Baba Banda Singh Bahadur Engineering College, wherein he is the principal, and the various initiatives that he has taken to bring about the skilling onto the professionals who pass out from there. Sir, welcome to the program, and yeah, the stage is all yours, sir. Dr. Lamba.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha. It was really very interesting to hear Raj Nehru, since he is heading one of the skill universities. My dear senior colleagues on the panel, Dr. Raj Nehru, Dr. J K Sharma, all participants, organizers from IHRDI, Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha, Mr. JPS Talwar and his team, Jai Hind, and very good afternoon. I wish and pray that each one of you is safe and healthy. In these trying times, please do take good care of yourself and your families. On the topic per se, globalization, knowledge, and competition have intensified the need for highly skilled workforce as it enables them to accelerate the growth rates. For India, skill development is critical from both demographic as well as socio-economic point of view. Therefore, it is pertinent to analyze the present skill capacity, the challenges being faced in skill development initiatives, along with their possible solutions. And that is the main topic of discussion today. Today, all economies need skilled workforce so as to meet the global standards of quality, to increase foreign trade, to bring advanced technologies to domestic industry, and to boost their industrial and economical development. Thus, skills and knowledge become the major driving force of socio-economic growth and development for any country. As it has been observed that countries with highly skilled human capital tend to have higher GDP and per capita income levels, and they adjust more effectively to the challenges and opportunities of work for our Indian economy to grow at 8 to 9% with the targeted growth rate of 10% for secondary and possibly 11% for tertiary and 4% for agriculture sectors. A multifaceted and highly efficient skill development system is imperative. Further, India is destined to be a contributor to the global workforce pool on account of the demographic bonus, with the growth rate of higher working age population as compared to its total population, and home to the second largest population, with a headcount of around 1.4 billion by 2022, in the world with distinct advantage of having the youngest population with an average age of 29 years as against the Chinese average of 37 and US 45 years in Europe. The increasing globalization and digital presence do provide India a unique position to increase its share further in global market from around 36% current share to 50% or possibly more than 50% in the global outsourcing market. And such a scenario necessitates the skill development for large workforce. Both the government and its partner agencies have undertaken various measures, initiatives for the effective implementation of skill development system in the economy, but still face a number of unresolved issues, challenges which need immediate attention of the policymakers. Also, India's transition to one of the largest and fastest growing global economy during the last 2 decades has been a remarkable phenomenon. In order to sustain its growth, an efficient and continuous system of skill development for the workforce is critically imperative. In order to capitalize the demographic dividend, India will need to empower its workers with the right type of skills. Thus, we need to evaluate the present skill levels of the Indian workforce in the age group of 15 to 59 years in the form of their general education levels and vocational training levels. The dropout rates of education institutions is estimated to be 50% in the age group of 5 to 14 years and 86% after 15 years of age. And in contrast to this, the participation rate of workforce rises rapidly after 14 years of age, and it results in a semi-literate workforce which finds it difficult to absorb higher form of skills. 38% of Indian workforce is illiterate, 25% has education below primary or up to primary level, and remaining 37% has an education level of middle and higher level. 80% of the Indian workforce does not possess any marketable skills. Only about 3 to 4% have received formal vocational training, and balance have received non-formal vocational training or on-the-job training, thereby implying that very few new entrants to the workforce have any marketable skills as compared to the developed countries such as Korea with 96%, Germany with 75%, Japan with 80%. In a nutshell, it can be said that despite making considerable progress in terms of literacy, and more so with the new education policy, high incidence of illiteracy cripples the Indian workforce even today. But still, India faces a number of unresolved issues and challenges which need immediate attention of the policymakers. I would, in brief, highlight some of these hindrances and possible solutions. The first one is the demand and supply mismatch. The demand made by industry and supply of labor force mismatch leads to aggravate all type of skill development initiatives of the government and private partners. The number of people formally trained in a year is around 11 lakh by Ministry of Labor and Employment, and approximately another 32 lakh trained by 17 other central government ministries. Thus, an ideal scenario is one in which supply of labor can be transformed into skilled workforce, which is easily absorbed by the industrial sectors. However, in India, a small portion of labor force is actually undergoing the formal training. It has been observed that there are more people than the available jobs at the low skill level, while there are more jobs at the high skill level than the skilled persons available for such jobs. The second issue is a geographical mismatch. Another problem that the geographical setup or outreach of the people for skills in India is very uneven. The states with much higher economic growth rates have more new jobs with low rate of labor force, while the states with slow economical growth rates have higher population growth rate with fewer new jobs. Thus, these laggard or backward states need to rely on migrant workers so as to cope with this challenge. The way forward is the government, along with its partner agencies, should set up more standardized skill-based institutions or skill development centers across the country, particularly in the backward states, with a view to provide equal access to all sections of the society. Another issue is the low educational attainment, which was also highlighted by Dr. Nehru. There are about 1.5 million schools in India with a total enrollment of 250 million students from pre-primary to senior secondary level. Schools constitute the maximum number of enrollments. Higher education sector comprises around 20.7 million only. The total number of students enrolled for open universities and other diploma courses constitute about 24% of the total students. Vocational training in India is primarily imparted through the ITIs, and now, of course, the skilled universities. There are a total of 9,569 ITIs as of 2019 September, with a capacity of 1.3 million. Current annual training capacity of India is about 4.3 million, whereas the industrial requirement is of 22 million skilled workers a year. The accessibility for the disadvantaged and rural section of the society is difficult due to high costs and other social impediments like transportation problems, especially for a girl student traveling away from home. These students find it extremely difficult to absorb even basic skills. Many skills taught in curriculum are obsolete, and their end result is that workers are unable to find jobs according to their aspirations. What we need to do is the need of hour is to provide quality educational curriculum at all levels with targeting skill development program which the new education policy is targeting. Hence, the instructional material or syllabus must be prepared jointly by the industry and the educational planners. It should be regularly updated and must include more of practical learning than the theoretical. Now, talking about vocational training, India is progressively moving towards knowledge economy, where skills are widely recognized as the important lever of economic growth. But the perception about vocational education is still doubtful. It is generally meant for those who fail to get admission in the formal system. Thus, it still needs time to be considered as a viable alternative to formal education. This was also highlighted by Dr. Raj Nehru. As it was observed in India, around 90% of the jobs are skill-based. They require some sort of vocational training. The current capacity of vocational training is 31 lakhs against an estimated annual requirement of about 4 to 5 times workers, whereas the overall national target of skilling is 50 crore of workers by 2022. India needs to impart vocational training to at least 300 to 350 million people by 2022, which is significantly lower than the government target. Moreover, the private sector provides skill training as required by service section, mainly to educate youth, especially who have cleared their +2, and largely in urban regions. Ultimately, hundreds of workers in unorganized sector do not get any kind of formal skill training, which results in low productivity levels and employability gaps among majority of workforce. Due to lack of awareness about industrial requirement and the availability of matching vocational courses, most of the prospective students in the country do not go for vocational training. The way forward is a scalable, efficient and comprehensive vocational training system with proper awareness generation program, as these programs help in spreading information about existing skill development courses and the market requirement, which lead to increase the student enrollment as well as enhance the credibility of the vocational institutions. Another issue is the skill development for women, particularly. In India, women also form an integral and substantial part of the workforce, but the working percentage rate of women in total labor force is declining. The share of women workforce between 25 to 54 years of age is about 30% in 2010 as against 39% in 2000, which is quite below as compared to 82% in China and 72% in Brazil. All it depicts the underrepresentation of women in the workforce and results in the wastage of demographic dividend to India. Moreover, women in India are mainly concentrated in the informal sector and are engaged in low-paid jobs with no security benefits. This represents lack of employment opportunities and skills for women workforce. In order to unlock the full potential of women workforce in India, the need of the hour is to bring about an employment revolution along with the skill development revolution. The planners should focus on women-specific policies for their effective participation in the employment market, as it would help India to meet its skilling target and reap benefits of having the largest workforce by 2025. Private sector participation, the current situation in respect of the participation, is not involved adequately in curriculum development and policy formation related to education and vocational training. Mostly the private sector institutes are located in urban areas, therefore rural population lags behind. Furthermore, due to high cost of these institutes, the weaker or disadvantaged section is unable to get proper skill training. Hence, a strong policy measure and operational linkage are needed to bring together the public and private sector to improve the quality and relevance of training, especially in the rural areas. Next issue is placement-linked challenge. A major problem of India's existing skill development system is lack of linkages between education and placement of that trained workforce. Lot of fudge data is available that so many people who have done their vocational training have been placed. The vocational training is offered nearly in 120 courses and mostly of duration, which varies from 4 months to 2 years. Whereas a parallel model in China, where exists approximately 4,000 short duration module courses, which provide skill more closely aligned to the unemployment requirement. In India, as compared to the large firms, the micro, small and medium enterprise, MSME, find it difficult to invest in skill development institutions. And this results in deployment of semi-skilled workforce in many MSME firms. Lack of correlation between demand of local economy and provisioning of skills by local institutions create an employment gap and lead to job-related migration. What we need to do on this aspect is, in this era of knowledge, highly skilled workers who are flexible and analytical in nature are recognized as the driving force for innovation and growth. To achieve this, India needs a flexible education system with multifaceted and highly efficient skill development system dovetailed. The system must provide linkages between each of its constituents and provide a seamless integration between skill development and employment. Another issue is the multiplicity of institutional framework to standardization. Over the past few decades, India has witnessed significant progress in the skill development landscape as various types of organizations have been set up both at national level as well as at the state level. Around 17 ministries, 2 national level agencies, several sector skill councils, 35 state skill development missions, and several trade and industry bodies came forward with a view to push the national skill development agenda. Given this mind-boggling complex institutional setup with overlapping and conflicting priorities and little coordination and standardization ultimately resulted in fragmented outcomes with limited impact. What we need to do is this diversity and lack of coordination among government, non-government and private providers leads to create obstacle in the effective integration of the system and focusing on national development objectives. So it is highly essential to introduce integrated reforms in the form of establishing some nodal authority or bodies ranging from advisory to executive in nature with a view to coordinate and govern various skill development and policy making initiatives. Let's look at the informal and formal sector skill gap. And the government of India has set a target to impart the necessary skills to 500 million people by 2022 in the 12th five-year plan. In reality, the country is facing a significant skilled manpower challenge over the next decade. In India, around 12 million people are expected to join the workforce every year, whereas the current total training capacity of the country is around only 4.3 million, thereby depriving around 64% entrants to the opportunity of the formal skill development every year. Furthermore, out of approximately 4 lakh engineers graduating every year in India, only a dismal figure of 20% are readily employable, the industry fit engineers. Around 93% of the Indian workforce is employed in the unorganized or informal sector, which lacks any kind of formal skill development training. The way forward on this issue is the dire need of the hour is to focus more on the labor force of the unorganized sector. Through the better and superior skills are essential requirements of the competitive market, but practically the unorganized sector does not have the affordability to hire expensive labor of high quality. Thus, this conflicting objective can be resolved with an integrated approach that gradually enhances labor quality while maintaining a purposeful balance with the demand and affordability of labor markets. This level 1 to level 4 kind of slabs are very essential. On one hand, availability of workforce with higher skill levels would increase competitiveness of unorganized sector, and on the other hand, it would benefit the organized sector too, as some of the workforce with higher competency may get absorbed there despite having low education levels. There are infrastructure challenges. One of the important requirements for the proper implementation of skill and training development programs is availability of basic infrastructure for the same. It has been noticed that many skill development institutions suffer from lack of proper upgraded infrastructure. The situation is more severe in case of institutions located in semi-urban and rural areas. Hence, the policymakers must focus on providing the required infrastructure and equipment like computers, software, tools, machines, etc., simulators, and qualified instructors so that they provide highly quality skills as required by the industrial sector and relevant practical exposure to the students. Appraisal of institutions against the standard norms and guidelines must be conducted regularly, and ratings should be based on outcome assigned to every institution. Training of trainers is one of the important key of the skill development framework, and absence or inefficiency of the same would result in serious bottlenecks in the implementation of any skill development projects. In India, the gross requirement of trainers in various fields is approximately 80 to 90,000. Furthermore, the annual incremental requirement of trainers is approximately another 20,000, whereas at present the current annual capacity of trainers is only between 3 to 5,000. Way forward is the government and its participating agencies should focus on provision of more effective training centers of the trainers. The educator must be chosen on the basis of academic qualification. Their level of industrial experience and competence should be measured in terms of their theoretical knowledge, technical and pedagogical skills, as well as being abreast with new technologies in the workspace. Lack of labor market information system. This impedes the very objective of the skill initiative in India, as it results in poor linkage between skill development and the employment. At present, there is no proper system available in the job market where the industrial, job seekers and government come forward and share the relevant information among them and derive collective benefits from it. As a result, on one hand, the government lacks reliable data that would otherwise help it in making effective policy decisions, and on the other hand, the inadequacy of such a system disappoints both employers and the employees, since it results in job mismatch and inferior quality output. Therefore, a well-integrated or consistent LMIS is required, which will ensure timely provision of all type of relevant information to the stakeholders in the system and ultimately help in systematic planning for skill development initiatives, which incorporates local employment demand and the skill requirements. Since I am heading this, one of the important engineering colleges in Punjab for last more than 6 years, the challenges which came and the way we try to handle them, I would now discuss these over the next 5 minutes. The first challenge is a language skill. Since the students come with widely varying from regional to national language background, special efforts in the first year have to be put in to get them each one at par with each other so that they can derive maximum benefit from the academic classes. Especially students coming from Punjab, Bihar, Jammu, Kashmir, northeastern states have different language skills. Even if they have studied this in their +2 and have scored nicely, but as far as communication, verbal communication, they lack a lot of language skills. Next is lack of overall industrial base for most of the engineering branches in quality as well as quantity, especially in the northern India, is a major challenge as far as placements are considered. So we need to involve the local industry. We in the college have gone ahead and identified industries for each branch, and 32 memorandum of understandings have been signed with them. We conduct an industry week per semester, also short duration and weekend courses to meet local industry requirements and enhance local employment with help of experts coming from the local industry, which has given us a lot of dividend. Tie-ups with national level higher educational institutions like IITs and the National Institute of the Technical Teachers Training. We have a tie-up with the IIT Ropar. In fact, other day, Dr. Asad had addressed one of our very important webinars, and I'm fortunate that today he is on the other side. He is listening to me. IIT Ropar, Bombay, Kharagpur, and Mandi. Professional corporate certification courses established through the centers of excellence of in our college from Oracle, Microsoft, Red Hat, Pearson, National Cyber Security and Standards Agency, Free Open Source Software Center, FOSS, and Spoken Tutorial Center with the IIT Bombay. More than 3,000 students have taken advantage of these centers of excellence existing in the college. We also have to focus on their personality enhancement, from the way they dress up to the sense of the social interaction parameters and co-educational environment and the group dynamics. Lot of motivational as well as through special experts, this education is given to them for the personality enhancement. On-campus placement and specific industry training. We have arrangements for whenever there are placement drives. Industry-oriented special training packages are conducted of depending upon 1 to 2 weeks. The result is, just in last about 2 to 3 months, we have 11 students of our electrical engineering selected for junior engineer with the Punjab State Power Corporation. 19 have been selected with Microsoft and Wipro. 5 have been selected by Blue Star, and 46 for stipend-based industrial training, where possibly, if they do well, they would get adjusted in those industries. Also, special training for the defense and merchant navy selection is conducted in the institute, and we are proud that we have contributed to the defense per se, that is in the Army, Navy, Air Force, about 23 students who have joined, and the senior most is a lieutenant colonel now in the EMA. Also, special efforts to promote social equality, gender equality, and regional equality has to be conducted, because people coming from different social background have certain, I would say, speed breakers in their mind while in the interaction with the different gender, people from different regions and different social status come forward to. A lot of effort has to be put in. In conclusion, I would like to say that to make India internationally competitive and to boost its economical growth further, a skilled workforce is essential at all levels. As more and more India moves towards the knowledge economy, it becomes increasingly important for it to focus on the advancement of skills, and these skills have to be relevant to the emerging economic environment and the industrial requirements. But transforming its demographic dividend and efficient skill development system is the need of the hour. Therefore, to achieve its ambitious skilling target, it is imperative to have holistic solutions of the challenges instead of piecemeal interventions. I know that I have taken about 5 minutes extra in case where I felt it was required to highlight pertinent issues and likely way forwards. I'm sure you will excuse me for this. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, General Saab, for such a comprehensive painting, a comprehensive picture of the skilling in India, and what are the challenges therein, the gaps, and you also talked about the way forwards, wherein you talked about the demand and supply gap, bringing about standardized kind of training institutions, and then having linkages with the industry as such. And you provided us case study of how you viewed certain challenges while you joined the Baba Banda Singh Bahadur institutions, and how you came up as always with good solutions. And now majorly your solutions or your students have been appointed into various industries, and they are doing well, not only in the corporate sphere but also in the defense sphere as well. Thank you, General Saab, for your enlightening session on this. And no issues about time. I think what you've presented is marvelous and wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Now I
Thank you,
request
sir.
the third eminent panelist of the day, Shri J K Sharma ji, to come up and talk about his views and experiences into skilling, and then the stand-up and his experience at IIT Ropar on technical incubators and all. Good afternoon, J K Sharma sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, sir. And I am thankful to my two counterparts. I think 90% of the delivery has been given, and I have only to make a fine tune only. So thank you very much, Dr. Nehru and General Lamba, for their comprehensive study. Because I was seeing that General Lamba was well prepared with his notes, as the comprehensive study was there. So my part is now, because we have how much time I have, Chaddha ji? Your mic, kindly unmute your mic.
Sir, you may take your 15 to 20 minutes, sir.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. So all the data, all the figures has been provided by my two counterparts. In my opinion, I will go to little background. I started my career as a instructor in Way 86 at government ITI Sirsa, and then I went to the Ministry of Labor, as already conveyed by Chadaji. In my opinion, if we have to improve the economy, have improved the GDP, MSME is the major part to look into that. And to help the MSME, and the requirement of the MSME is still lying with the small level industrial training institute, which are likely, I have gone through little of the data. We have 15,000, more than 15,000 ITIs in India today. And the NCVT program, which was specially inaugurated or introduced by the government to help the vocational training, it अगर उसका ईयर अगर हम देखेंगे तो मुझे ताजुब होगा कि इतना ज्यादा टाइम होने के बावजूद भी जो अचीवमेंट्स हैं अभी भी वो शायद हम लोग अभी नहीं कर पाए हैं. It was introduced in 1956, 11 years after independence, and now it has 44 and I think 64 years. But even after 64 years of its inauguration, still we are talking of the lack in skill. So where the lacuna is, where the deficiency is. The scheme was very well introduced, but it was not clearly monitored, and you can say micro monitored. I can see a few of my friends, Principal Varinder Bansal ji is there, Dr. Asil Sahir is there. So they have worked in the grassroots level with the industrial training institutes, particularly Dr. Varinder Bansal. So the gaps which we can highlight here is that the training is not coinciding, or it is not tuned with the industry requirement, as already conveyed Nehruji and General Lamba. So the meanwhile requirement of this sigma is to have a SPVs, special purpose vehicles, in the shape of a at least 2-tier or 2-shift training institutes, particularly in the industrial hubs. Before joining to IIT Ropar, I was working as a director principal in one of a prestigious institute, that is Baddi Technical Training Institute in Baddi, Himachal Pradesh. and more than 32% medicine of India is being produced in Baddi. So this SPV was specially introduced and established there by Ministry of Industry, Commerce, and in with the government of Himachal Pradesh. And we were providing skilled manpower to the pharma industry. But I am happy to share that even after making our best efforts, we were not able to fulfill their requirements because the industries are more and the output is very low. So government is required. Now the birth of skill universities in India has gone through. Shri Vishwakarma University is doing a wonderful job in that area. And now we are also coming in Punjab, a skill university very near to Ropar. It is in Chamkaur Sahib. And I'm happy to announce that IIT Ropar is a technical partner in that skill university. Plenty of good round level meetings, first meeting has been happened in their premises, and the Honorable Minister, Mr. Channi, who is Industrial Training and Vocational Education, Technical Education Minister, he is in a very personal interest for its early establishment. The need of the hour is on two sides. From my point of view, I may be my counterparts may be different somewhere with me. Number one, to reinforce the skill level of the technical institutions like ITIs and other vocational institutions, but with a strong monitoring and auditing of that. Because we have a good number of institutions, but still we are not able to produce a skilled manpower. The reason is definitely that it is not being monitored. I will not name, but still I know few of the institutions in Punjab where people are working in industry, but they are also same time joining the industrial training institutes, private institutions, and it is on non-attendee basis. Their aim is to just acquire a 1 year, 2 year certificate or diploma, but they can earn a diploma, they can earn a degree, they can earn a 1 year program, but there will be no skill because their attendance is zero. The second part of skill is to introduce more and more incubators. Now what happened is we are having good ideas from the young entrepreneurs, wonderful ideas. Recently during the COVID, the people at IIT Ropar, they have innovated more than 22 innovations during the COVID period, and plenty of them was based on the COVID. So pressure से काम जो है वो ज़्यादा होता है. So there are two parts: the reinforcement and restructuring of the industrial training and vocational education sector, and required to be closely monitoring of the schemes. Those institutes, those are not working well, they are only on the cards, they are required to be shut down. And those who are good, recently government has introduced a parameter. There is a framework of their quality training, and good institutions are there. So जो अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट काम कर रहे हैं उनको गवर्नमेंट को ही डबल शिफ्ट में जो है वो चलाना चाहिए. ऑलरेडी गवर्नमेंट की ये पॉलिसी है कि जो ITIs हैं, जो स्किल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, उनको वो डबल शिफ्ट में चलाते हैं. और अगर मैन पावर, हमने स्किल्ड मैन पावर पूरी करनी है तो उनको डबल शिफ्ट में चलाया जा सकता है. एंड पर्टिकुलरली जहां पर हमारी इंडस्ट्रियल बेसिस हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल क्लस्टर्स हैं, वहां पर ऐसे एक नहीं कम से कम 5-10 ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूट होना चाहिए. वहां पर अपनी गवर्नमेंट को अपनी ये जो पॉलिसी है कि हमको इतनी पेरिफेरी में या इतने एरिया में 1-2 से ज्यादा इंस्टीट्यूट नहीं लेने हैं, उस पॉलिसी को हमको छोड़ना होगा. यू टेक द एग्जांपल ऑफ लुधियाना, देयर आर the number of industries we cannot identify. हम बता नहीं सकते हैं कितनी इंडस्ट्री वहां पर है, लेकिन अगर हम इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट की बात करेंगे जहां से स्किल्ड मैन पावर ने निकलना है, तो वो शायद उसका 2% भी नहीं. तो इंडस्ट्री को स्किल्ड मैन पावर जो है वो कहां मिल सकती है. दूसरा, इसमें जैसे जनरल लांबा ने कहा और नेहरू साहब ने कहा, हमको जो करिकुलम डिजाइन करना है, नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में इसके लिए कितना वो प्रोविजन है, I cannot say right now because it is still under the of the discussion. इंडस्ट्री का जो करिकुलम है वो उसमें साथ रखना होगा हमको ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट के. दूसरी चीज, ये जो इंडस्ट्री ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट बनते हैं, पर्टिकुलरली जो इंडस्ट्रियल बेल्ट्स में बनते हैं, उसमें इंडस्ट्री का जो पार्टिसिपेशन है वो होनी चाहिए. इंडस्ट्रीज पार्टिसिपेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ देयर एस्टैब्लिशमेंट, industries participation in terms of their money, industries participation in terms of their regular visiting to these institutes. क्योंकि उस एरिया की इंडस्ट्री ये बता सकती है कि मुझे अगले साल में इस स्ट्रीम के 10 स्किल्ड वर्कर चाहिए, और वो करिकुलम और वो प्रैक्टिकल ट्रेनिंग अगर वहां पर बेस लेवल की इंस्टीट्यूट में दी जा रही है, और उसकी जो प्रैक्टिकल ट्रेनिंग है जिसको हम ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग कहते हैं, वो अगर उस इंडस्ट्री में दी जाती है, तो स्किल्ड मैन पावर की कमी जो है वो बहुत हद तक जो है वो पूरी की जा सकती है. और इसमें इंडस्ट्री का भी बहुत फायदा है. इंडस्ट्री का फायदा इसलिए है कि उनको अपनी मैन पावर हायर करने के लिए काफी फंड जो है वो एचआर को देने पड़ते हैं. अगर एक स्टूडेंट जो इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट में अपना 2 इयर्स प्रोग्राम कर रहा है, अगर वो 1 साल अपना वहां करता है, 3 मंथ्स अपने ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग के लिए फर्स्ट फेज में वो उस इंडस्ट्री में करता है, फिर वापस जाके अपना करिकुलम पूरा करता है, और फिर 1 महीना लास्ट में अपना फाइनल ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग करता है, और इंडस्ट्री देख सकती है कि उसको इस चीज की ट्रेनिंग ऑलरेडी दी जा चुकी है, और उसको बहुत अच्छे तरीके से ऑब्जर्व जो है वो ऑब्जर्व जो है वहां पर किया जा सकता है. दूसरी रिक्वायरमेंट यहाँ पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा आइडियाज को जो है वो नर्चर करने की है. और जो इंक्यूबेटर्स हैं, अगर आज भी अगर हम पंजाब में देखें तो देयर आर नॉट मोर देन 20 incubators, and if we call about good incubators, it can counted be on fingers only. The ideas coming from these gentlemen, they are required to be incubated in a well-versed way, in a well-managed way, by giving them a good seed grant at the very start. Government should also think on providing a seed grant, a small amount of seed grant on a very early stage, because the early stage is the stage where the students have no money, they are not being even supported by their parents, because parents still want that बेटा आपने डिग्री कर ली है, डिग्री करनी है, आपको इसके बाद एक अच्छी सी जॉब लेनी है और हमारे साथ हाथ बटाना, या हमारे सिर से जो है वो अपनी जिम्मेवारी जो है वो खत्म हो. वो जो एटीट्यूड है पेरेंट्स का, उसमें भी थोड़ी बदलाव लाने की जरूरत है. और जो अर्ली स्टेज फंडिंग मैंने कहा है, उसको गवर्नमेंट में थोड़ा और एनर्जेटिक होना पड़ेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इन्वेस्ट इंडिया के तहत अगर कोई कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट कर ली जाती है स्टार्टअप की तरफ से, तो उसके बाद प्लेंटी ऑफ गवर्नमेंट स्कीम जो है वो लाखों रुपए की जो सीड ग्रांट है, या जो सॉफ्ट लोन है, या जो उसको फाइनेंशियल हेल्प है, वो तो दी जाती है. बट उन बच्चों को एक कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करने के लिए जो मैक्सिमम एक अमाउंट, इंडिया में सबसे ज्यादा महंगी कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करना पंजाब में है, बिकॉज पंजाब में जो लाइसेंस फीस है कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करने की 1 लाख की कैपिटल के ऊपर, वो आज भी 14,000 से 16,000 के बीच में है. और वही स्टूडेंट या वही बच्चे अगर चंडीगढ़ में या दिल्ली में या छत्तीसगढ़ में अपनी कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करते हैं, तो यही जो चार्जेस हैं वो ऑलमोस्ट 1/4 रह जाते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर 1 लाख की कैपिटल के ऊपर अगर कंपनी को इनकॉर्पोरेट अगर आपने पंजाब में करनी है, तो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट और जो गवर्नमेंट की फीसेस हैं उसको मिला के उसके प्रोफेशनल चार्जेस लगा के जो फीस है वो ऑलमोस्ट 18,000 रुपीज के करीब पड़ती है. लेकिन वही कंपनी अगर आपने दिल्ली में या छत्तीसगढ़ में या महाराष्ट्र में या मध्य प्रदेश में करनी है, तो ये अलग अलग स्टेज के अलग स्टेप्स हैं. बट सबसे सस्ती जो कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेशन है वो छत्तीसगढ़ में और दिल्ली में है. सो गवर्नमेंट को ये जो एक रेट्स हैं, इनके जो स्लैब्स हैं, वो सारे स्टेट्स में सेम रखने चाहिए. क्योंकि जो स्टूडेंट्स एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशन में पढ़ते हैं, उनको कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करने में दिक्कत जो आती है, कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेशन की जो पैरामीटर्स हैं उसमें उसको रेजिडेंशियल प्रूफ चाहिए. अब बच्चा जो है वो महाराष्ट्र का है, वो पढ़ रहा है IIT रोपड़ में, उसको जो कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करने के लिए जो एड्रेस प्रूफ देना है वो महाराष्ट्र का है. तो महाराष्ट्र में अगर उसको कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेशन ज्यादा चार्जेस ज्यादा हैं, तो उसके अंदर वो हिच रहती है. सो ये जो स्लैब है कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेशन करने का, इनकॉर्पोरेट करने का, वो ऑल ओवर इंडिया सेम रखना पड़ेगा. और गवर्नमेंट को कुछ अपनी स्कीम ऐसी इंट्रोड्यूस करनी पड़ेगी कि अगर कोई एक आइडिया अच्छा है, वो अर्ली स्टेज की एवेल्युएशन कर चुका है, और कम से कम 6 मंथ्स अगर उसने किसी गवर्नमेंट फंडेड या गवर्नमेंट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड इंक्यूबेटर में लगा दिए हैं, तो उसको 15 से 25,000 रुपए की जो इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट है, सीड है, वो आप उसको एक सॉफ्ट लोन की तरह दे दीजिए, ताकि वो कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करने का पैसा ले आए. क्योंकि मेरे पास स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं, उनका आइडिया बहुत अच्छा होता है, बट हमारी गवर्नमेंट की जो फंडिंग स्कीम्स हैं, उसमें यह है कि आप उनको फंड तभी कर सकते हैं जब तक वो कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट नहीं होगी। अगर कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट करनी है तो उसके लिए जो पैसा चाहिए, वो बच्चे जब अपने पेरेंट्स की तरफ देखते हैं तो उनकी पहली जो डिस्करेजमेंट है वो वहीं पर ही हो जाती है, क्योंकि पेरेंट्स आर नॉट ऑफ द ओपिनियन, ऑलवेज ऑफ द ओपिनियन कि बच्चा जो है वो पढ़ते हुए ही कोई अपना कारोबार शुरू करे। उनका आज भी यही मानना है कि आप अपनी डिग्री कंप्लीट करिए, आप अपनी पढ़ाई कंप्लीट करिए और एक अच्छी प्लेसमेंट लीजिए और हमारी फैमिली की हेल्प करिए। जबकि वो ये नहीं सोचते हैं कि जो एक आइडिया आज ये बच्चा उनका बना रहा है, हो सकता है चौथे साल में जब उसको प्लेसमेंट मिलेगी, उसको प्लेसमेंट मिलेगी 5 लाख का पैकेज, 6 लाख का पैकेज, लेकिन एक बच्चा अगर सेकंड ईयर में ऐसा आइडिया लेके आ रहा है, हो सकता है फोर्थ ईयर तक वो जाते जाते उस कंपनी की जो वर्थ है वो 2 करोड़ रुपए, 4 करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा हो जाए। सो पेरेंट्स को भी यहाँ पर अपना माइंडसेट जो है वो चेंज करना पड़ेगा, और गवर्नमेंट को ये जो अर्ली स्टेज फंडिंग है फॉर इनकॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ द कंपनी, वो भी हमको जो है वो यहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट को उसकी अच्छी स्कीम्स के लिए यहाँ पर आना चाहिए। रिगार्डिंग दैट द न्यू ट्रेंड दैट इज अगर रिसेंटली मैंने एक वेबिनार जो है वो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पंजाब का किया था अलॉन्ग विद द प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी एजुकेशन श्री अनुराग वर्मा जी। सो गवर्नमेंट ने जो है अभी एक अच्छी स्कीम जो है वो ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग के लिए वो लेके आई है, जिसमें बच्चे का जो 2 साल का जो प्रोग्राम है उसमें ऑलमोस्ट 6 मंथ्स और मोर देन 6 मंथ जो है वो इंडस्ट्री के अंदर वो जाएंगे, और उसको उस दौरान इंडस्ट्री को उसमें कुछ पे भी नहीं करना है, उसको पे भी कुछ नहीं करना है। सिर्फ अगर इंडस्ट्री चाहे तो उसको अपना पॉकेट मनी दे सकती है, बट इंडस्ट्री को विद इन देयर एक स्किल्ड और सेमी स्किल्ड मैन पावर जो है वो मिल रही है। सो दैट इज ए वंडरफुल स्कीम विच इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी मोर बेटर बाय इंस्टेड। एंड इसमें जो इंडस्ट्री है उसको थोड़ा ओपन हैंडेडली और ओपन हार्टेडली, आई एम रिपीटिंग दीज वर्ड, ओपन हार्टेडली एंड ओपन हैंडेडली आगे आना होगा, क्योंकि उसी इंडस्ट्री को जो मैन पावर है, जो स्किल्ड मैन पावर है, वो अगर अर्ली स्टेज में मिल जाती है तो उसके एचआर जो उसके रिक्रूटमेंट चार्जेस हैं वो काफी कम हो जाएंगे, और उसको विद इन दैट इंस्टीट्यूशन पढ़ते पढ़ते उसको एक स्किल्ड मैन पावर मिल जाएगी, जो कि आने वाले टाइम पे जब वो इंडस्ट्री ने अपने आप को अपग्रेड करना है, उसको आईएसओ लेना है, तो जब भी ऐसी एप्लीकेशन डाली जाती हैं तो उसमें जो रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज हैं, जो रेगुलेटरी वो पूछती हैं कि आपको आपके यहाँ कितने एम्प्लॉयज जो हैं वो सेमी स्किल्ड हैं, कितने जो हैं वो मेजर स्किल्ड हैं, कितने जो हैं वो अनस्किल्ड हैं। सो उस पैरामीटर्स के बेस के ऊपर जो आईएसओ है या जो उनकी और जो फैसिलिटीज हैं वो गवर्नमेंट उनको एक्सटेंड करती है। सो इसका अगर हम वे फॉरवर्ड देखें तो जो न्यूली टेक्निक्स हैं जैसे एआई है, मशीन लर्निंग है, साइबर सिक्योरिटी है, डाटा एनालिटिक्स है, इसको हायर एंड वोकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन में जो है और अच्छे तरीके से हमको जो है वो इंट्रोड्यूस करना होगा, बट विद द क्लियर मॉनिटरिंग एंड पॉइंट टू पॉइंट P2P मॉनिटरिंग जो है उसकी वो होनी जरूरी है, क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशंस तो बहुत हैं, बट एंड डे जब उसका रिजल्ट देखा जाता है तो वो उतना अच्छा नहीं है। उसका रीजन यही है कि जो क्लोज मॉनिटरिंग है वो हम उसकी नहीं कर पाते हैं। सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक जो हायर एजुकेशन एंड जो पीएचडी प्रोग्राम्स हैं उनके सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस जो है वो और लाने की जरूरत है। A national database of future jobs must be compiled on the basis of project industry-based requirement by the SSCs. And lastly, a fund to demystify, to popularize the Industry 4.0 requirements, whereas the Industry 4.0 requirement can be minimized, and those institutions can be funded, those who are providing training to on these parameters, particularly the latest, i.e. the AI, the machine learning, the blockchain, and other ones. With my views, I think my time has come to an end, and I wish to thank Chaddha ji, my counterparts, and all the participants. And now house is open for the question hour sessions.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for providing such wonderful practical tips on what are the problems faced by technical incubators, what are the challenges for them, and also suggesting the way forward, what the government should actually do so as to make them more effective. Because somehow, you know, it feels there's a lot of surprise also and lot of paining that a country with 130 plus population and with lot of manpower, which is, world over, considered to be technically very good and providing, today we are providing all the chief executive officers of the world all together. We are not able to come up trumps in terms of, the research, the patenting part and all this part. and you provide some technical and very practical tips on how to actually go about this. And I think this will go a long way forward of all the three the panelists brought about, but also brought about the way forward. Now we can take a few questions. You just I think we have some few questions on the chat box also. So we can read it out and for the speakers, and then you can take up those questions. Yeah.
So there is one question from Dr. Indukari that diploma holders have more practical training in their courses than that of engineering graduate. Hence, diplomas are most sought after by industry nowadays. The AHC also has to rectify the gap of engineering graduates by making it compulsory for rigorous 6 months industry training on hand-on training. The webinar on Skilling India is excellent, and thanks to Dr. Yes, I do agree with Dr. Indukari ji. The need of hour is the recently because we have discussed on the ITI level, we have discussed on the diploma level, but the engineering graduates, those either in any of the AICT government institution or even to the IIT's institution, they are required to be a rigorous 6 months training, industrial training. And we at IIT, we have a good internship program. There are PPOs also, pre-placement offers also. So I do agree with Dr. Satyan and Raju ji. And my colleague, Dr. Asad Sahar, has a query. May the panel inform of any government efforts by promoting entrepreneurship in population segment where economic employment may help, e.g. SC/ST minorities in economically weaker sections. Any guidance will help. Doctor, there are wonderful schemes, particularly for the SC/ST and minorities, which are being presently being run in the government funding institutions, even the private institutions also. In Punjab, we have even start from the post-matric scholarship scheme also. It is all over India. It is the MHRD, now the Education Ministry scheme. So there are good schemes for the SC/ST and minorities. And even some of the courses, they are have a specific reservation, a fixed seat for the minorities and economically weaker sections. So, Shri Virinder Bansal, my friend from ITI Patiala, I found it one of the best ITI in Punjab. They have number of MOUs with the industry. This is on-job training in the industry will range up to 1 year. Yes, it is required, sir. Professor Naresh Rakhaji, yes. Now I think we have no more questions, and now house is open for any of the queries, any of the questions they have.
Good afternoon, everybody, sir. I am J K Sharma. First of all, I thank Mr. Raj Nehru, Dr. Lamba, and J K Sharma for wonderful session, hosting wonderful session and imparting their valuable experience as well as the knowledge to the whole members. Sir, this panel is consists of academicians as well as persons who serve to the nation. And my suggestion to panelists is that in addition to their academic general education, if a special paper, special syllabus, this is a finance, accounts, and banking is being given to the professionals, that whenever they enter into industry, they are not looking toward the other professionals who is going to manage their accounts, finance, and the banking sector. It will be a great help to them in the initial stage. Later on, definitely they are required to shift to a profession. If they are having a basic knowledge, they can always be in better position. I have seen many engineers, many professionals, they lack a basic accounting, finance, and banking skill. Because of that, they are being cheated and they are being overcharged. And secondly, there are special, Mr. J K Sharma has given a tip that MSME is going to be a major game changer for Indian economy. And to have a successful MSME, our worthy Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, suggested we should produce local and look toward the global market. So sometimes let's take example of a PPE kit. Earlier, production of PPE kit in single country was not economically viable, and the requirement of entire world is being catered from the China. Now, moment the requirement come up in India, so Indian entrepreneurs shifted to production of PPE kit and not only able to fulfill that requirement, domestic requirement. Now the Indian government has given a green signal to export PPE kits too. So similarly, basic economy of all 216 countries be taught to the skilled persons, so that when they enter into the industry, when they are going to start their enterprise, they are not only having the knowledge of a domestic business environment, they are also having the information, they are knowledge of entire globe. So they are not only looking toward the market of India, they will be looking whole globe as a marketplace and every country as a one market destination. So in this way, their vision will be broadened and they are going to reap and that the entrepreneur is going to reap a good benefit, and in our economy is definitely going to reap the benefit. For by these words, I put my mic mute. Thank you, sir. Yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Ji.
So, any other query from any of the participants?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Sharma, Professor Sachadev from PCT Group of Institute, and thanks for everyone on the panel to give me a chance to speak as regards to we being an incubator being established for the last two and a half years and sensitizing and fostering entrepreneurship at a very larger level. My submission to all panelists in the House that it should go to the government that even private funded institutes which are affiliated to IK Gujarat or other technical universities, what happens is, in fact, I was looking at the seminar at the Punjab Startup Cell, and one of the senior officers said that perhaps a good amount of money is being allocated to technical universities. But my point is, all those affiliated college does not get any operational expense for running their incubators. So the point of intention here is the student comes to my college for a 4-year degree program or a 2-year or 3-year BBA degree program. For him to take an incubation at Ropar or Chandigarh is not feasible because of his academic co-curriculum also, which he has to fulfill and clear the degree. And if the degree is not being completed, henceforth the question of perception of the parents is very right. Beta, since your degree is not going to be completed, henceforth you take a job and don't get into the entrepreneurial activity. So my submission is, keeping a benchmark, there should be a benchmark that if these institutes are qualifying this much operational expenses should be given, so that entrepreneurial motivation sensitizing is very rightly done at a graduation or the post-graduation level, and the student does it in his own city, in his own college, rather than having a relocation from that city to other city. And also, if at all a technical university has been given a fund by the government of India or Punjab Startup Cell or Indian Startup Cell, the affiliate colleges should also be benefited. See, if this happens across Punjab, because Punjab is one state which is not rightly developed as regards to ecosystem, as regards to Delhi or as regards to Maharashtra, because we have a lot of incubators there, a lot of institutions are doing incubation, and a lot of funding is available. Rightly said by Sharma sir, incorporating a company is a prime requirement for a startup to be recognized. And in Punjab, the money is huge. If you talk 15-20,000, student parents is not only develop 55,000 from the pocket. They say why? So that's the question. So guys, my request to submission to each one of you, we should write to Government of India or whomsoever is concerned, so that the right kind of motivation and sensitization is being there. Thank you very much for giving me a time.
Thank you, Professor Deva.
First of all, Asad Sair here from IIT Ropar. A very big thank you to Dr. Chaddha, Shri Raj Nehru, Shri Major General Lamba, and Shri J K Sharma for a wonderful seminar. Really appreciate this initiative, and also I look forward. I'm not sure because it was the first one I organized. I just had a suggestion. If Shri Varinder Bansal can share some information on the nice activities on ITI Patiala through a similar session, or similar ITIs which have done very nice across the state and in the country, that will be very beneficial. Yes. Thank you.
I request Varinder Bansal ji, if he is listening and he can share some points, it will be very beneficial to all.
Good afternoon, sir. Sharma ji.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Very fine, sir. Very fine. Very fine, sir.
In briefly, you please give your opinion of your ITI, as Dr. Asad Saher has conveyed. You have a wonderful ITI, and I found your ITI one of the best ITI in Punjab.
Certainly, sir. Thanks. Sir, I have about 25-year experience as a principal of ITI yeah. Earlier I was at Rajpura, and since last 10 years I am at Patiala.
Great.
We at Patiala did a lot of hard work since last 10 years, but the Rome was not built in a day. But it's a boon जो बूंद बूंद में सागर वाली बात है सर.
जी.
At Patiala, we tied up. We, uh, uh, we tried our best to tie up with industries like Maruti, Honda, Jaguar. We are also trying with a lot of other industries also. Actually, we are running 25 courses here, 25 trades. We are the largest ITI, means having maximum capacity at Patiala ITI. It's a premier institute set up in the year 1955. So we are having 1,200 capacities of students here, and our placement rate is about 90%. Every year our main feature is on the job training. Every trade is linked with the industry. The students are going for the on-job training for 2 months in the relevant industry. From this year, we have started dual system of training, like you already shared. In this system, it's a German system. It's a MOU has been signed with the relevant industries. We at Patiala ITI now this year we are starting 20 trades under dual system of training. In this system, the practical work will be covered by the industry, and the basic theoretical training and practical training will be covered by the ITI. And like we have signed that, like railway, DMW, you know DCW, DMW is there in Patiala at Patiala. We have signed MOU with them. We will send our electricians, fitters, like Federal Mughal Godse India Limited. That is a manufacturing industry. We have already signed a MOU with the machinist, turner, fitter. And likewise, there is a Pepsi Transport Corporation, and all automobile industry जो है ना, Maruti का हीरा ऑटोमोबाइल है, Tata Motors, like Mahindra and Mahindra, Toyota, all automobile industries, they are having workshops in their dealership. We will send our trainees to do the practical for 6 months, 6 to 1 year practical training. Like we are running motor mechanic, denting, painting, tractor mechanic, diesel mechanic, auto electrician trade. These are all automobile trades. The students will go to these workshops also.
Great. Thank you,
Like,
thank you for having a wonderful information on your ITI. So now over to Chadha for conclusion of this session.
Sir.
Chadha sir, kindly unmute. Chadha sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you, Vinod Bansal Sahab, and it's very nice to listen that Punjab ITIs are doing well, especially this ITI at Patiala, and you very rightly elaborated the various MOUs and they've signed with the industry, so that at the end of the day the students are getting placements, because that is what is required. And yeah, and I think all of the three speakers you emphasized upon that there's a demand and supply gap, which Mr. Nehru also talked about, and Lamba ji also, with the good statistical figures also, wherein at the top level the industry wants people, but the people are not available actually who are skilled up to that extent. At the lower level, that means the people who are unskilled, wherein the requirement is less but the more people are available. So this brings about the mismatch between the demand and supply. So it calls for more and more skilling. And as all the three speakers were agreeable on this point, that a standardized kind of institutions are required. Something like the skill universities, which Haryana has taken a step forward to bring about and doing so well. I think Punjab and other states should also follow suit and bring about all this, so that all some kind of a structured way wherein ITI is also, I'm not sure whether Mr. Raj Nehru is listening to me, whether all the ITIs now they are under the Skill University of Haryana. If he maybe can speak on maybe 1 minute on this also. So it's something of this, so that this multiplicity of command goes and you have some system and a structure wherein the entire system is responsible for bringing about the entire effectiveness into the show, starting from the ITIs to the polytechnics, and thereafter leading towards the engineering colleges as such. Sir, Mr. Nehru, are you listening to me? Yeah, no, I think is not available. So then,
Yeah, I can hear you.
yeah, sir, can you speak about that whether, with the advent of the skill university that has come up, all ITIs and all, they are now under you in terms of this structure, or they are working?
Haryana, so
Sir.
in Haryana, what we have done structurally, government has parked skill university ITIs under one administrative department, and we call it Skills Development and Industrial Training Department. ITIs and the university fund are administratively controlled by one department. That's number one. Number two is ITIs become the feeder for the admissions in Skill University, because all the courses that we have aligned ITIs to is BVOC and MVOC programs. And all the programs that are being run by the university, every program, today university is running around 40 programs in engineering, management, agriculture and humanities. All programs are run in partnership with industry. So every program has an industry partner. The curriculum is designed, 60% is apprenticeship and 40% is classroom. So that's how this program modeling is done.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. And so I think a wonderful discourse by all the three panelists on the potential of scaling in India, because every year you are adding around 60-70 lakh people to the entire show, and by 2023 approximately 70 million or 7 crore more additional workforce will be joining as such. So it's a big challenge as such, and I think what we have done is that we have highlighted the issue, the gaps have been brought about, what the challenges certain institutions like the engineering colleges, ITIs and other skill universities and skill centers are facing. They have been brought about. And we are all, there's consensus on the point that this demand and supply gap has to end, and then all forces, they have to come together to bring about a holistic kind of a framework, so that the entire potential of demographic dividend has to be reaped by the country as such. Failing which, this demographic dividend can become a demographic nightmare, wherein they can move into the negative direction with all kind of things like drugs and the terrorist kind of activities, or maybe disrupting the entire law and order also, because youth is a great force. And that way we are lucky to have the youth population as such, but they have to be brought into this right direction. And what else could be the better way of doing it by kind of a standardizing skill set centers and putting a lot of emphasis. And as rightly also suggested and pointed out, that with new education policy, it is hoped that things will be better. So once again, I thank all the three eminent panelists, Mr. Raj Nehru, Major General Dr. G.S. Lamba, and Shri J K Sharma Shi, to be having devoted their time on this and spoke very extensively, and they have enlightened us with all kinds of the holistic picture and with figures and facts. And I also thank all the participants who join us on Sundays. I know it's difficult, but and with lot of interaction and questions, Mr. Vinod Bansal and Mr. Asad also. And lastly, I thank the IHRDI team who organizes all this, and congratulations for organizing the 10th in the series webinar. Mr. JPS Talwar, who does the work from the background, and Sanya Chaddha, who provides the technical inputs and the entire feedback, and we'll be interacting with you after this also. So friends, thanks to you. We'll come to an end. Until we meet next time, goodbye, sayonara. Thank you. Till we see you again. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And so before we finally